name is Emily Chang, and this is my persuasive speech on the legalization of medical marijuana. From 1997 to 2005, 11,687 total deaths were caused by the most popular 17 FDA-approved drugs. Within the same time frame, only 279 deaths have been caused by the use of marijuana. Also, not a single case could prove that marijuana was the direct cause of death. It was only a contributor. So why is this drug getting so much attention if it really hasn't done that much harm compared to other drugs we currently use? One of the biggest questions in today's news is, should marijuana be legalized? You've probably heard this and many conflicting studies and opinions, so hopefully I'll be able to give you accurate information and clear any controversy you feel. Medical marijuana is needed by many patients, and it should be legalized because the benefits do outweigh the few risks. Marijuana has been used in medicine for thousands of years, dating back to the earliest civilizations like ancient Egypt and India. It's a natural medicinal herb, but for some reason receives a lot of negative feedback. The most common excuse people will give is that marijuana is a gateway drug. In other words, it's a slippery slope, so once you start using marijuana, you'll be tempted to use other more harmful drugs like heroin or cocaine. But in a medical setting, this doesn't really apply because you're using a drug to help your sickness, and like prescription drugs don't really have that kind of relationship to other harmful drugs like heroin. So it doesn't have a valid point there. Also, another popular concern is marijuana's influence on mobility and driving. But there are other substances that are already used in our culture, like alcohol, that also have this influence. The government is not banning this harmful substance from the public. After smoking marijuana, 3 hours afterwards, you have twice the probability of getting into a crash. But with the blood alcohol level of 0.10, which isn't very high for some people, you have 7 times the probability of getting into a crash. And that probability multiplies the more you drink. These substances are allowed, and so why isn't marijuana? This drug is persecuted because of the many health problems it can cause, and it is true there are studies that show it can lead to possible acute memory loss, higher probability of certain cancers, increased risk of psychosis, a weaker immune system, or some possible brain or lung damage. The problem with these tests is that these risks only occur under certain circumstances that can be avoided. Most of the experiments were conducted under the circumstances of a heavy marijuana user, a person that took high doses every day for an extended period of time, like a very long period of time, years and years. And these symptoms are very low risk if used appropriately and used in a medical setting. That's not outrageous. There are some cardiovascular problems that can be caused from the use of marijuana because of its increased heart rate effect, and these problems can be present in older patients, but if marijuana is a prescription drug, then doctors need to be aware of these patients' problems and not prescribe them to every person. Not all drugs can be used by everyone, and there are certain risks involved, but doctors need to be smart and just know when to use it. Just because it can't be used by everyone doesn't mean the drug should be made illegal. Also, lung damage is caused, but only because of the smoking of marijuana specifically, which isn't the best method of intake. There are other methods of intake, like vaporization. This is a little graphic of the differences between vaporization and smoking. When smoking marijuana, make sure this is visible. When smoking marijuana, it involves the combustion of the plant, which releases a lot of toxins and harmful byproducts. And 88% of the smoke inhaled does not contain any of the cannabinoid elements that have all the health benefits. When vaporized, 90% of the gas that's inhaled is made up of these cannabinoids, which have everything you want. There are always small side effects of taking marijuana, like feeling depressed or nausea, but what drug doesn't have these risks? These risks are within a tolerable range, considering all the other risks other drugs currently in use have. And everyone knows that prescription drugs don't work for everyone. There are allergies, and for some odd reasons they just don't work. So some people need to take marijuana for their pain because anything else that's out there doesn't work for them. And there aren't a lot of affordable options out there, and it is wrong that people are being denied the possible cure to their suffering. It would actually save a lot of money and resources if the government legalized marijuana, because the government spends thousands of dollars a year, or even millions, on the war on drugs. And also, if legal, marijuana would have to be processed under the scrutiny of health professionals and not drug lords. So there's a very high probability that if made legal, drug lords wouldn't be able to make profit off of it anymore because they couldn't sell it illegally anymore. So that crime ring would probably disappear. And then police officers and their resources could be focused on more serious crimes instead of this gang activity that's usually associated with marijuana. And with this extra focus on these other serious crimes, that crime rate would probably dwindle as well. With all this crime disappearing, that is a slippery slope. Now, we can talk about some of the actual health benefits of marijuana that are possible. First things first, it's a non-toxic drug, and there's no possibility of an overdose, which is why there aren't a lot of deaths connected to marijuana, as I said earlier. When administered, it can alleviate pain associated with chemotherapy, act as an appetite stimulant for people with AIDS, prevent osteoporosis later in life. It's very helpful with chronic pain, and it can prohibit the growth of certain cancers. There's also a much longer list of benefits that have been started to look into through preliminary studies. If legalized, more studies and trials could be run, and we could look into the possibilities. Marijuana has a strong potential for fighting certain cancers. Again, many people need help, but the government won't allow people this option because there is risk involved. But is it the government's job to ban all substances that have risk? If it is, they are doing a good job in other areas. But there's risk involved in many things in life, and it shouldn't be the government's job to decide whether it's right for you or not. Taking medical marijuana should be an individual decision for people, and taking care of your body how you want and when you want should be your personal right. Medical marijuana should be legalized as a prescription drug. People can be informed of the risks, which are not as bad as some of the side effects of other drugs we already see in society. Marijuana could be the solution to many people's pain. The faster we act, hopefully, the longer we wait, the more they suffer, so we need to act fast. That's it.